He was young, healthy in everyone's eyes, until he collapsed in the middle of the park. What seemed like a simple walk almost ended in tragedy. But that fainting revealed something much bigger, an invisible collapse caused by years of feeding dry food. Based on real data, veterinary reports, and a journey of food overcoming, this video is a warning and, at the same time, a hope for those who truly love their animals. Do you really know what your pet eats every day? Activate the bell for more content about real nutrition and real dog care. For years, he was fed exclusively dry food, those flashy packages sold as complete nutrition, full of slogans such as fortified with vitamins or 100% balanced. For the owners, it seemed like the best possible option. It was practical, it lasted a long time, and the veterinarian at the conventional clinic said that everything was fine. But something was not right. At first, they were subtle signs. The fur, once shiny, became opaque. Small itches appeared on the paws and back. The energy, which once made him an active and cheerful dog, slowly diminished. Many owners think it's normal when their pet gets older or calmer. But he was still young. He was only 4 years old. The owner worried, took him for exams, and all the results came back normal. The kidneys, the liver, the blood, nothing indicated imminent danger. The diagnosis? Stress, they said. Maybe genetics. Or perhaps an environmental intolerance. Nothing conclusive. Just more medicines, more hypoallergenic food, more chemical supplements, until an ordinary day became a definitive alert. During his usual walk in the park, while running towards a ball, he simply stopped, staggered, and it collapsed. It was not sleepiness nor play. He had passed out in front of dozens of people. And luckily, an owner of another dog who was on site was a doctor. He revived him carefully and warned, "This is not normal." Something in his metabolism was screaming for help. Back to the vet, new tests. Only this time, one detail drew attention. The pancreas. Subtle but dangerous changes. The liver with discrete signs of inflammation. High levels of urea. His body was being intoxicated in silence. And the symptoms only appeared when there was already overload. The owner, in shock, began to question everything. After all, how could a young, vaccinated, well-cared-for dog be collapsing? The answer came after days of research and conversations with professionals who followed a different line. They asked, "Have you looked at the ingredients of the feed? Have you researched what is really feeding your pet?" That's when the penny dropped. The feed, even the premium ones, are made with ultra-processed ingredients. Byproducts of animal origin, bone meal, synthetic preservatives such as BHT and BHA. Substances linked to liver problems and even neurological disorders. And worse, the pet's body needs to work all the time to decode it. The metabolism is overloaded, digestion is slower, and the intestine suffers. The owner began to notice something she had previously ignored: his poop, too bulky with a strong odor, strange coloration. It was as if the body eliminated everything it could not absorb. And then a new question began to arise. Is there any way to feed my dog real food without compromising on nutrients? This was the beginning of a transition that would change not only the dog's life, but the owner's own view of health, industry, and prevention. The new clinic was not like the others. No smell of aggressive disinfectant, no shelves full of industrialized food up to the ceiling. Instead, there was a library with books on animal nutrition, recent studies on canine microbiota, and, at the reception, a poster emblazoned the question, "Do you know what your pet eats every day?" The professional who attended her did not wear a lab coat. He called the dogs by name, bent down to look at them at the same level, and instead of asking, "What breed?" he asked, "How does he live?" In the consultation, nothing was mechanical. The focus was not only to treat the symptoms, but to understand the context of that animal's life, its routine, emotions, habits, and especially your food. Upon hearing that he had only eaten dry food since he was a puppy, the veterinarian just shook his head. He said gently that this was common, but not normal. And then she presented a series of data that the tutor never imagined she would hear. According to him, more than 80% of chronic diseases in dogs today, such as pancreatitis, obesity, recurrent allergies, kidney disease, and even cancer, are directly linked to ultra-processed food. The feed, when exposed to high temperatures in the extrusion process, loses natural enzymes and many original nutrients. To compensate, the industry adds synthetic vitamins, but this does not compare to the biological effect of natural foods. The owner listened carefully as he showed graphs, exams, and even testimonials from other dogs that had improved after changing their diet. One of them had overcome seizures, another had reversal of an initial condition of kidney failure. Cases that did not seem like miracles, but rather the consequence of an adjustment. Stop intoxicating the body and start truly nourishing. The proposal was clear: to start a gradual dietary transition to the BARF diet, which stands for biologically appropriate raw food. but don't improvise. The change should be made with guidance, respecting the dog's body, rebalancing the intestinal microbiota, and correcting deficiencies. In the following days, the tutor immersed herself in the topic. He studied the composition of meats, organs, correct proportions of fleshy bones, allowed vegetables and natural supplements. He realized that this was not fashion, nor food extremism. It was science applied to the health of the animal. She started by offering small pieces of fresh meat alongside the food as a test. And the dog, which until then had eaten without enthusiasm, devoured the meat with shining eyes. In the first few days, the stool decreased, his breath improved, the itching on his paws disappeared, and the power came back, as if a switch had been flipped. The most surprising thing came later. He returned to running in the park without fatigue. He slept better. I interacted more. Follow-up tests showed improvement in liver enzymes and stabilization of pancreas indices. The change was visible not only in the body, but in the behavior. He looked more alive, and the owner, moved, realized how much she had been deceived by an industry that prioritizes profit, not health. An industry that convinces millions of people every day that a packet of dried balls can replace a real meal. When she decided to fully transition to the BARF diet, the owner was faced with an avalanche of information. Contradictory blogs, videos with poorly explained homemade recipes, and forums full of confused tutors. It was at this point that she understood it is not enough to exchange the feed for raw meat. It is necessary to respect the animal's biology. And for that, balance is the key. The BARF diet is not improvised. It requires exact proportions, variety, security, and responsibility. The traditional basis of the diet follows an average of 70% raw bone in meats, such as chicken neck or pork ribs, 10% of organs, half of which must be liver, and the other half divided between kidney, spleen, or lung. 10% crushed raw vegetables, such as pumpkin, carrots, or leafy greens, and the final 10% ranges from natural supplements, seeds such as ground flaxseed, raw eggs and shells, and even kefir. Each component has a metabolic function. Raw bone provides bioavailable calcium, which is essential for joints and muscle contraction. The liver is a vitamin A and iron bomb. Vegetables help with intestinal cleansing and microbiota balance, and eggs and seeds bring important fatty acids to the brain and immune system, but that's where many go wrong. By relying only on simplified posts, tutors end up setting up unbalanced diets. Excess liver, for example, can cause hypervitaminosis A. Lack of bone leads to chronic diarrhea and bone demineralization, and the absence of fiber causes constipation and an increase in intestinal toxins. All this generates a rebound effect. The pet even improves at first, but soon begins to show new symptoms, and the blame falls, unfairly, on the natural diet. The owner, aware of this, was accompanied by the functional veterinarian. Every 15 days, he adjusted the proportion based on the tests and the dog's response. Over time, she noticed details that she had never noticed before. The smell of her fur changed, her teeth became cleaner, her gaze more active, and her behavior more sociable. The veterinarian reinforced, dogs that eat real food develop a more responsive immune system, have a lower incidence of tumors, allergies, skin problems, and age with more vitality. It showed data from a longitudinal survey carried out with more than 2,000 dogs over 10 years. Those who followed a natural diet since they were puppies lived, on average, 3 to 5 years longer, with a higher quality of life in recent years. And all this for a simple reason. The pet's body stopped spending energy fighting toxins and started using that energy to stay healthy. It is what science calls low-grade de-inflammation, a slow, invisible, but powerful process. Today, the tutor already knows how to set up weekly menus, respecting the seasonality of food, the dog's blood type, and even its temperament. Yes, even that influences. More anxious dogs react better to diets with fattier meats and less liver stimulation. Lazy dogs benefit from lean meats and more fibrous vegetables. 2 months after the complete transition to the BARF diet, the results began to consolidate not only in the dog's appearance and behavior, but in clinical examinations. The owner, who had previously lived in cycles of returning to the vet, palliative medications, and constant worries, now observed a curve of steady improvement, silent but consistent. Urea and creatinine levels, which indicated renal overload, had normalized. The liver enzymes, previously altered, were within the ideal range. The blood count showed a slight elevation in white blood cells, which, according to the veterinarian, indicated a more reactive and healthy immune system. The tutor almost couldn't believe it when she saw the side-by-side comparison. And more than numbers, there was what she called presence. The dog woke up in a good mood, eager to get out, with his eyes awake and firm movements. He played, ran, jumped, and even interacted better with other animals. It was as if his soul had returned to the body. When talking to other tutors, she realized that many lived the same cycle of food ignorance. Hypoallergenic feeds that caused more problems than they solved. Dry and ultra-processed foods offered as standard. Lack of information, or worse, intentional misinformation. All this fed a chain of silent diseases which would only be discovered too late. The veterinarian explained that the modern concept of prevention is not limited to vaccines and dewormers. Prevention starts in the cell with foods that truly nourish, strengthen the intestinal barrier, balance the flora, and prevent chronic inflammation. And this is only possible with real food. There is no shortcut. The owner decided to share his story, not to generate guilt in other owners, but to open their eyes. After all, she also believed that food was the best. He also relied on the pretty packaging and TV slogans. He also felt that following convention was enough. But the fainting in the park showed otherwise. Today, she feels like she saved his life twice. The first was there on that day of fright. The second, silently, was by changing the diet. And this second salvation is the most powerful, because it is continuous, daily, preventive, and transformative. She concludes her account with a direct warning. If you think that food is balanced because it is written on the package, think twice. Go further. Ask, search, question. Your pet depends on it. And the price of ignorance can be his health or life. If this story made sense to you, it may be time to take a fresh look at your dog's food. Share this video with someone who still believes that kibble is the only way. Your pet will thank you, and so will his body.